Hello, everybody. Wow, this is my first time ever doing this kind of live stream. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I'm so excited to be sharing my album Trinkets with you. Thank you so much for coming. So, the first, how this is going to work is for the first half an hour or so, we're just going to listen to the album. And if you have any questions or any comments, you can write them in the chat. And you can also send them to my WhatsApp. But if you can write them in the chat, that's good. I want to make sure that that you go to the booklet in the description that has the lyrics and a bit more about the album, which will guide you as you listen. And hola a todos, hola mi familia y amigos de Ecuador. Si quieres seguir las canciones, tengo las traducciones en español en la descripción, pero no son tan hermosos, pero espero que las traducciones puedan ayudarles. Pero gracias y por favor, escribe tus preguntas y tus saludos en el chat. Okay. All right. So I've got some people from, let's have a look. Oh, people from Australia. Hello. And we've got Pamela. So good to have you here. I'm not going to say too much about the album because I really want you to experience it for yourselves. And in the second half of the live stream, hola Marco Villacreses, hola. In the second half of the live stream, I'm going to be interviewing my awesome producer, arranger, and friend, Lee Bradshaw. And so if you have questions about us or about the album, please leave them in the chat or message them to me on WhatsApp. I'll try and get to all of them if possible. Lastly, thank you so much for being here. I wanted to do something a little bit more relaxing because Daniel has found work in Germany. So in the next 2 months or so, we're going to be moving. And I'm really sad to be leaving Ecuador, but we're excited for this opportunity. So if you have questions about that too, you can start. All right. So please make yourself comfortable, get a hot drink, popcorn, whatever, and we'll start.
If life has no meaning, I might as well be sleeping in on Sunday. I guess that would be okay. And if I'm not his creation, then God must be some figment of my imagination. I guess that's an explanation. 'Cause sometimes I don't feel this sure. 'Cause maybe there's not something more. Is this all I have to live for? Oh God, are you listening? Can you hear this heartbeat for you? Oh God. Lord, are you here with me? Is it true you know how many hairs are on this head of mine? Well, if that's the case, I'm gonna do just fine. So perhaps I'm a monkey or just a mistake. Belief in this world that I guess is a choice we make, the truth of which is hard to take. So I'm flesh and ligaments, blood and bone, and no one can help me move my heart of stone. And I guess I walk this life on my own. But sometimes I don't feel this sure. 'Cause maybe there is something more. And I have listening. Can you hear this heartbeat for you, oh God? And oh Lord, are you here with me? Is it true you know how many hairs are on this head of mine? Well, if that's the case, I'm gonna do. If that's the case, I'm gonna do. If that's the case, I'm gonna do. Fine, yeah. I'm gonna do just fine, yeah. Just fine. Oh, yeah. Fine, yeah. Just fine.
Okay, everyone, I have an honest question. Is this lagging a lot? Is it cutting? ¿Está cortando? Because I think my oh no. Ay, ay, ay. My computer is dying. Okay. Okay, everyone, I have an honest question. Is it lagging a lot? I think maybe my internet here isn't good enough. So, can you write in the comments if it's been cutting out? Okay. Okay, so I think unfortunately my computer is I think maybe so it's not so annoying. It's probably best to go straight to the interview. We might have to skip the listening. I was hoping it would work, but I think I don't have powerful enough internet in Ecuador. So I'm going to start interviewing my dear friend and producer Lee. And while we're interviewing him, I'm going to while I interview Lee, please write any questions or comments you might have. I'm sorry if there are some of you that haven't heard the album yet, but we might just to stop. It's worth continuing. Okay. All right. I'm going to keep going then for a few more songs. And if it's still annoying, we'll go back in, okay? It's just cutting out a lot on my end.
Child, I see your tears. I know those fears that trouble you at night. And I've heard all too well when people ask, you say you're
Okay, can you see me? Hello?
Oh my goodness, hello. Isn't the
Oh,
internet
sorry,
fun?
Lee, sorry. I'm just bringing you in because I think that my internet is not good enough.
That's okay. All right,
So,
I'll get the piano going. We'll just do it live.
yeah, oh, that probably would work better. Oh my goodness. Thank you everyone for your patience. Next time I do this, it'll be better, but I guess that's also what happens when you live in Ecuador too. So, everyone, I would like to introduce you to my dear friend, producer, and arranger, Lee Bradshaw. Hello, Lee.
Oh, Soph, how you
How are you
going?
going?
What's the time? What is the time there?
The time is 8:14. 8:14. So
Hi,
another problem
Pamela.
could be, yeah,
Goodness, there's actually lots of people in here. It's amazing.
I
They're coming
know.
from
It's so
everywhere. There's somebody
good.
in southwestern Perth, Western
Yeah.
Australia. Poor person. Goodness me. I
Poor
lived in
person.
Perth for 20 years. I can say that it's okay.
Well,
You
so
should tell them the story about you should tell them the story about your dad and John Villani.
can you tell it? Because I don't think I know
You don't know
about
the
John
story?
Bologna more.
The guy
Yes.
that I sort of did my music production apprenticeship with was a guy in Western Australia at a studio called Planet. His name was John Villani, and it was the first studio I ever went to record in. And I ended up doing, that was the time I got into music production, and he kind of took me under his wings and under his wing, and it was sort of like an informal apprenticeship, and I worked with him for years. And it turns out that that your dad, 20 years later, sitting in the studio here, told me that he also made a record with John way back at Planet, and it's such a tiny world.
Yes. So,
It's
yeah, that was so
amazing.
crazy when we found that out. And
Yeah.
actually, because Lee, you're from, wait, I can't remember. You did spend time in
I
WA.
am not from Perth.
You're not from Perth, but you lived there for a while.
I lived there we moved there when I was just about to go into high school. I grew up in Melbourne, and went to high school, Perth Modern, which was a music scholarship school, and had a great time there. And and I've been back in Melbourne since early 2010. So I think, well, it doesn't matter. I've been in Melbourne, I think, just a little bit longer than I was in Perth. So I'm going to give away my age.
You look good. You look.
Thanks. Thanks. Under these super
amazing.
white lights that kind of makes me look like Michael Jackson or something.
Great. So, Lee, can you please
Yeah.
tell me a bit more about your background as a musician? I just want to say something. I think that, everyone's been saying how they enjoy the album, but really, like, I always think of my songs as like the skeletons, and I bring the skeletons to Lee, and then Lee adds all the flesh, and then all the musicians get involved and makes it beautiful. So, I can't
Organs.
credit. Sorry?
The organs.
The organs?
The hair. The makeup.
Yeah, that's right. So, tell me,
No,
Lee.
not at all. Your songs, your songs are incredibly rich, and they, when you've got a great song, when you're making a record and you've got a great song, to begin with, everything that musicians will contribute, or that, if you're working with somebody like yourself that's open to collaborative ideas, and it's really easy to input when you've got a great song. That and I sort of have a belief that that all the as you say, the meat on the bones, it comes out of the song. It's sort of inherently in there. You just sort of have to reach in and pull it out. But what's this? Hi, Lee. It's hard, but someone has to live in the southwestern WA forest. That's true. Southwest of Perth is beautiful, actually. You in Dunsborough, Yallingup, or further? Wherever I'm sure she'll message soon. Sorry. So your question was my background, right?
Yes. Tell us
Okay.
about your background.
Well, I'll do like the 30-second version.
Wow.
I started playing. My grandfather gave me his violin when I was about 7, I think, and you know, and I really sort of grew up in music, classically trained, and that's sort of what I, in my personal musical life, is what I primarily do. But I learned the violin for a number of years, and then I went to Perth Modern on a scholarship, and I switched to viola there. And composing music was always my first love. I was obsessed with Beethoven. That hasn't changed. I think between being about 9 and 15 years old, I only listened to classical music, so it was very weird. I was a very weird kid. Then about halfway through high school, I switched from Beethoven to Iron Maiden and started singing in a Iron Maiden cover band. And my hair was much longer before, but then I sort of got sucked into that world of contemporary, particularly rock. And although, it was sort of that I was doing. I did the Iron Maiden thing, and then I softened into Bon Jovi. So after I left high school, I went to uni, and I did composition there, and studied with some good people. And but at that time I was really sitting on the fence between this classical road and and everybody at the time was just saying, you've got to pick one road or the other. So I suppose at that time I decided that I would go down the contemporary music path, and that's what led me to that recording project at Planet, where I met John Villani, who worked with your dad. Mm-hmm. And even though I was making my own record there, I some of my idols, I suppose, in contemporary music were people that were also songwriters and producers for other artists. So I thought, well, that will be something that I kind of relate to that, because I always saw myself as a composer first and foremost. So getting into songwriting and production seemed like the contemporary music version of what I suppose a composer does. And I got more and more into that while I was still doing my own music. And I was always doing classical in the background. It was always in my mind that I suppose I would come back to it at some point. But so I got into record production, and eventually found my way back to Melbourne, and here we are. So so I suppose that's why when I'm working on a record like yours, I'm always hopeful that you'll let me put an orchestra in it or something like that, which you did.
Of course. It was fun. Good.
That was fun. We got to use a real live orchestra with 40 human beings, in Budapest, in Hungary, and I actually use that orchestra quite a lot now. But I think maybe at the time, your album might have been, one of the first few projects that we sort of used the orchestra on a few tracks.
Oh, really?
I'd done like a symphonic metal record with an artist, and we did use them on a couple of tracks there, and I'd used them on one or two other tracks that I was producing for other people. But I think your album's got did we get 3 or 4 tunes?
You got 3, because so for people that are listening, the tracks that have like the orchestra of live strings, 40 players.
40-piece string
Are
orchestra, yeah.
yeah, are This Life, Found in You, and Will Be Loved. So
Right. And then we
yeah,
did some string overdubs in some of the other tracks. I think I remember Charlotte came in and played cello on a handful of tunes as well. So there's not a lot of studio wizardry happening on the record. It's all pretty organic and legit, which is good.
yeah, it was funny. I think, well, my first instrument was violin, but also like perhaps studying classical music, and also my sister Louise, she plays the cello. I couldn't. It was really hard to like.
Hi,
You can always.
Louise and Michelle.
Oh yeah, hey Lou, hey, and I should say hey mom, sawadika, hey,
I
so hey.
have his mum.
Um,
I met him all
but
at the wedding.
yeah. So oh, I'm just checking the messages if I'm getting any new ones. But
Going off, Sophie. They're going nuts in there.
no. But yeah, so I have to admit I do love the lives, or like the real instruments. You can get away with it, but it's always the best if you can have real instruments. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a problem using musical technology at all. I think as long as you treat it as an instrument in and of itself, I think where the problem comes with music tech is when you're actually trying to replace something that's less than the original. So
Yes. Yes.
40 actual string players versus one person playing a sampled string patch on a keyboard is not the same.
Yeah.
But one person playing string samples on a keyboard can be its own thing. And that is where I think your sort of head needs to be at when you're using music tech. But that's, I suppose, a different conversation. What's this? Nikita Castellano says, hi, Lee and Sophie. Did either of you have a favorite track once it was finished or to work on? Well, I've got two in particular.
Go for it.
I bet Sophie knows which two they are.
I think so, but I'm not so sure. Trinkets is Trinkets one.
You definitely know at least one of them was Trinkets. Yeah. Trinkets was, like that was that was me, I suppose, living out my alternate life fantasy of being a Christian rock star.
Did you want to be really?
No,
did
because
like
I'm not a Christian, but I do have the Jesus chic.
I
some
know.
people have
It
told
was
me.
so funny when I showed Rocio. She
Well,
was
at least sort of Italian Renaissance Jesus chic, right? Because they probably don't actually look anything like real Jesus. Sorry, this is totally sacrilegious to the Christians in the room.
Yes, just no, don't worry. So just so you know, Lee, like, isn't a Christian?
I'm a nice, non-religious, secular man.
But looks very much like Jesus, so you've got that going for you, Lee.
Italian Renaissance Jesus.
When I showed the event to Rocio, my mother-in-law, she said, "Oh, estás con Jesucito? Like, you're with Jesus."
That's funny. Well, actually, no. Trinkets is like musically was really, when you played it to me, because just so everybody knows, like all of Sophie's songs came in as a piano vocal, and she would sit at the piano and play them, and all of the songs were beautifully developed harmonically. Every now and then I would make a few suggestions as to how we might extend the harmony, or I might suggest an alternative progression here or there, but not really. I mean, they were very well developed as pieces, and in fact, you could easily have recorded the record just piano and vocal. I can say that now because we finished. But when you played me Trinkets, like I immediately heard like this, I don't know, I guess I would describe it as like a post-apocalyptic rock and roll, like Mad Max kind of, epic thing. And I know that you were really not sure about that for a long time.
Well, I think I literally had like, what was it, a few chords and like some bass notes.
But
And
that's
I
all that song
felt
is.
embarrassed.
It's just like it kind of just drones on that tonic, but you've kind of got that diminished fifth thing, which is, you know, a devilish triad thing. And it was kind of, you know, I loved that sound, and I'm like, oh, this has got to be like this epic, you know, like four horsemen, you know, coming in on a storm or something. And that was my, I suppose, visualization. And when you were like, yeah, let's do that, I was wrapped. So that one obviously is a song which and I was so happy that you made the video clip for that, because
Yeah.
you know, like the way that the visuals that you created in the video clip, sort of marrying with, and the visuals in the video clip are totally different to what I imagined for the song, but you know, the way that they marry together and the way that you tell the story, and particularly that very last shot, is just fantastic. And but I think why I really loved that track is that, again, like as a non-religious person, as a secular person, you know, like I have to admit that, and I've had a reasonable amount of experience with Christian music over the journey, because I taught for 10 years, and I had at one time about 15 vocal students that went to like a local, I guess they were Baptist affiliated, but it was one of those like rock and roll churches where they, you know, it's like a Hillsong type, and there's lots of singing in the band, and the music part of going to church is like a major thing. And they were all super competitive, and they all wanted to, you know, get better, and they all wanted to get in the band, and they all wanted to sing at church. So, you know, I heard all the Darlene Check stuff, and you know, I have actually produced a handful of Christian artists' records over the years. So, but what I really liked about your stuff, again, from my own point of view, is I have to say that sometimes with some Christian material, to a secular listener, it can kind of put you on the back foot a little bit, because it can sometimes be a little bit outward. What I loved about your songs, and what actually drew me into it, is that you're actually singing about your experience. It's your experience. It's so personal. And you're also very open about, you know, your faith challenge that you're having at those times, and that was great. And then, you know, the fact that you sort of come around to I suppose that that story arc that you've got, that we go through over the course of the record, it's really, really personal. And it just feels like this is Sophie's party, but she's inviting you in. It's not saying, hey, this is the party that you need to be in, so get here now. It's
Get
not
it.
like that. And I actually think that, you know, like so many people, and particularly other artists that I work with that have heard your stuff, they all make the same comment. It's like, I really relate to this stuff, and none of them are Christian. So I think that that's actually amazing, because I know that that was part of your, I suppose, part of your mission as an artist, was to actually be able to have those conversations with people that maybe have a different system of belief, or, you know, who maybe aren't Christian, or maybe spiritual, or even from a different religion altogether. But those sort of touchstones, those relatable touchstones of anybody just living life, that's what I actually think is in your songs, and that's what makes it such a beautiful record. And to me, that I know to you it's totally different. Like the Christian thing is right in the middle of it all, but it's almost a byproduct of this actual, just real life. How am I going to get through what I'm getting through? And that's what I loved about Trinkets, because it was that moment where it's like, hang on a minute, this is, I see all of this stuff going on within, you know, the organization of what I attach my faith to, and I'm not about it. And I really love that edginess and power that's in that lyric. So that for me was like really it makes total sense that that's the name of the record, because it just sums up so much about what you are and all the conversation that you and I've had that are unmusic related. You're such a, you're really down for the conversation, and I think that comes through. I think that comes through in your songwriting, and I think that's why it's so broadly relatable, and it can be totally relevant to people who are not Christian and will never be Christian, and that's great. So that's one half of the answer. Trinkets is definitely one of the favorite songs of mine.
What was
But
the
actually,
second one?
my other favorite, I have to say, is "Found in You."
Yeah.
I love
I love,
that song
yeah.
so much. That's just such a beautiful song, and it was, there was nothing to do. I put a few little kind of weird
Oh,
little
what?
string busters in it. Tried
What?
to get a little bit of modern classical in there to,
And some clock. Yeah, I would say. Well, I'm still answering Nikita's question. Found in You, yeah, is still one of my favorites. Although I have to admit, Lee, like listening to the album again, I'm like, hey, this is actually pretty good.
That's good. Thank goodness.
Because I'm when you write albums, it's like, oh, I like, okay, Lee, you have to tell them a bit what I was like to work within the studio, because I have to admit, like, I was pretty anxious about it being right,
Apart
and
from
then
flying in on like a clamshell, like every day, and and the screaming and the crying and the grinding, and no, not at all. Sophie was easy. Actually easy to work with. I think early on, which is totally normal, I have to say, whenever I'm doing a first project with an artist. And this record actually started out as an EP that we expanded into. It was either going to be EP2, or it was going to be, well, let's turn the whole thing into a record. And we actually came back around to the first lot of material and added some stuff. We added some more instrumentation, and I think
I
I think
redid the
even we
vocals.
re-recorded the vocals, and maybe put some more backing vocal stuff in. And anyways, so when we did the first lot of songs, and like I say, it's a very normal process, just that wanting to enable the artist to understand the process as much as
Mm,
possible, to actually make it easier for me to do my work. It's difficult to just say somebody, hey, trust me.
mm.
So I wanted to expose Sophie to as much of the process as possible, and that maybe, I think, caused you a little bit of sort of perfectionism anxiety, we'll call it, at that time.
Yes.
But I think we managed to get over that eventually.
Yeah, well, because for example, recording, because basically when Daniel and I found out we needed to go to Ecuador, I took
Mm,
time off work and I had all this creative sort of
that's
energy.
right.
And
Yeah, yeah,
that's when
yeah.
we recorded the last 6 songs. But it was
Yep.
so much faster. Like I trusted
Yeah.
Lee, but and I think I was also a bit more confident. But yeah, I
But that's
remember.
also that's also normal. And I say this to everybody. If you're an artist and you're choosing a producer, I mean, producers everywhere, and they all do good work. The thing is you've got to find somebody whose work, or whose sound, or whose aesthetic, or whose approach, or whose philosophy is something that you want to marry with your music. And so after the first lot of material, I think you were much more comfortable that, oh, this guy will do it okay. So I'm
This
good now.
guy.
This guy's all
Well,
right.
I have
It's gonna be okay.
at this point I have to thank Pamela. So Pamela
Yeah,
Joy, hello.
it's Pamela. She
Basically,
was the one.
um,
This is all Pamela's fault. Good one, Pamela.
so I had these songs for a while. Those of you that know me, I had these songs since I was 18 years old, and now I'm 27. Oh, so
Oh,
mature now.
please. I've just been recording some songs of mine that are from the late 90s. So be quiet. I'm older than you.
Okay. Maybe. Well, I don't know. Good point. But perhaps what I'm more saying is like I was sitting on these songs for a while, and because I had come from a classical background, you don't really have. Well, one, you don't usually record in the same way you would like vocally, and two, like I just didn't know what to do with these songs. And so when I was doing my traineeship at St Jude's, hello to anyone from St Jude's out there, Pamela was also on the staff, and she suggested I get in touch with Lee. So I actually didn't go to any other people, but when I spoke to my dad about it, he's like, sounds legit. Yeah, go for it, Soph, go for it. So you can thank my dad for that, Lee. He's like, I think he
Oh no,
sounds
that's
good.
great. And Pamela also is a wonderful writer and artist,
Yeah.
and like same deal for me. Like I did a little bit of work with Pamela a while back, and as a Christian oriented songwriter, like it's so personal and open that it really, it doesn't, there's not that sort of buffer that pushes you away. She really draws you into her storytelling, and again, like for a non-Christian listener, it's something that you can absolutely engage in without it being there's nothing prohibitive about listening to that stuff. So do have a listen to her music as well, because it's really some beautiful stuff there.
Well, speaking of Pamela, Pamela has asked a question. It's, have Christian radios taken any songs up, or do you think they will? Well, this is where I have to shout out to Aussie Grown Radio, Aussie Grown across the nation. So Hank, I can't remember who got me. Someone, I think it was, got their name. Someone got me in touch with Hank, and so Hank has been playing my songs on Aussie Grown across the nation. Basically, it's a show that showcases Australian artists, independent artists usually. As far as other radio programs, it would be awesome, but I'm still trying to figure out that process. I have been played on radio stations in Latin America. So I've had, if Marcos Villacresas is still there, he played me on Tu Radio Online in Ecuador. And yeah, actually, I think I've been played on more Spanish speaking radio stations than.
That's good. That's good. Get it out there.
Yeah, so you may have heard me there, but I mean, I would absolutely love to, but it's tricky sometimes. I mean, Lee, you probably know more about this than I do, but what gets played on the radio?
Look, radio, the whole that whole conversation is, radio is still, I suppose, an outhouse of the old music industry. So, it's a whole process to get music on the radio and what that means, and the business around your music that is necessary for your music to be on the radio. Having said that, that's terrestrial mainstream. So if we're talking about,
what does that even mean?
Terrestrial mainstream means, like a land, like a radio station that you can actually visit that broadcasts through an antenna.
Yes.
As opposed to, and what we have now is we have like just an absolute abundance of internet-based independent format radio, which is much more amenable to independent releases, and you can really find people that will support you, and I suppose the filtering process for those kinds of radio stations is a little bit more legitimate, in that you'll actually have people that will be responsible for the programming of their own shows, and they'll listen to your music and they'll program it because they like it, as opposed to, any sort of major radio station that you can think of that has a program director that is being visited, every Monday by the three major labels with all the new major label releases and a wad of advertising cash. So that's in a very, very it's not exactly, it's not to make them sound like the big baddies or anything like that, but it does, radio sort of plays into that, I
Well,
suppose, what remains of the old recording industry
yeah.
system. So if you're not making a record with a major label, you're probably not going to get airplay with major radio stations. But if you're getting picked up by format radio, and I have no doubt that you'll get picked up by independent online
Oh
radio
yes, and I
stations.
have to admit, like with independent, I've been played on a radio station in Namibia, no, Nambia, somewhere in the continent of
Namibia.
Namibia, that's right. I was like, ooh. And actually, who just said that? Live at the Chapel Australia. Oh, said I've contacted DJ Payne of the Telly About Your Music. Thank you so much. Yes, Live at the Chapel Australasia is awesome. If I were in Australia, I
Oh.
would have performed at one of your events, but unfortunately, I'm still here. But yeah, so to be honest,
You're getting requests now, Sophie, to record the record in German and Spanish.
all
Let's
right,
go.
I will. I'll keep going with questions. This is good. I'm liking this format. So the next question is Sophie, how do you manage to be so publicly honest in your lyrics and comments? Um, well, I think I'm a pretty open person, and I have a very lovely, like a loving family. Shout out to my beautiful family: Dad, Mom, Michelle, Louise, Mitch, Ed, and Daniel. I think he's downstairs. Um, I think what makes me particularly honest is several years ago I went through a really bad time with my mental health. I got hospitalized, went through psychosis, and so it was a really, really intense time. And I think a lot of us, including my family, we just didn't really know what was going on. And it was definitely not just like that. Probably the year before that, or even 2 years, I'd been quite depressed. There was a kind of family breakdown, and also I had dated a guy, and then we broke up, and I was, well, yeah, pretty devastated about all of that. But yeah, so it kind of was a slow burn, so to speak. So I think, definitely straight after that event, I found it a bit difficult to talk about those things. It was very traumatic. But I think as I went on, I felt that we people really need to talk about these things. I think for a lot of people, and especially now in the pandemic, like if people can recognize the signs of, maybe their mental health isn't going so well earlier on, I think you can often nip things in the bud. Whereas, like in my case, it was going on for so long, and not only that, like I think as Christians, mental health and faith can be really tricky. I came from a more Pentecostal church, so anything I sensed or thought, I sometimes thought that was God telling me to do that, or you know, uh, one symptom of mental, like depression, can be feeling really guilty all the time. And so if you're feeling guilty, you can think, oh, God's upset with me, blah, blah, blah. So I think I want to be open, because I think a lot of Christians struggle with
What
mental health, but
what
sometimes,
what's the church's position on mental health or mental illness in a broad sense, Sophie?
really depends on the church. So
Mm.
I'm really lucky that, for example, at St. Jude's, I think people are more aware of mental illness, and they'll encourage you to go see a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and
Is it
and there's even,
acknowledged though? Like, does the church acknowledge that mental
yeah,
illness is yeah, okay?
yeah.
It's not like the Scientology thing where they tell you that you just need to do some auditing or pray on it.
Yeah, I think it's complicated, because I personally believe that I'm not like, it's very easy to say it's just like a broken leg, but I do think our spirituality, our emotional life, our past, they all affect mental health. So you can't like just separate the two.
Of
But for
course.
example, in Ecuador, where I live, from what I've heard, there's still a big stigma around it. And in general, in churches that have the prosperity gospel, they the thinking is you are a child of God, therefore you should not suffer. If you're a child of God, you should be wealthy, you should be have a good job, you should be happy. And so sometimes when people are struggling, they're blamed, like, oh, it's because you're a sinner, it's because of
Right.
or and it can also be hard if someone's blaming, your spiritual health. If someone's already depressed and someone's saying you're not praying enough, you don't have enough faith, that's gonna make you feel even worse. And so, I guess another thing is why I'm open about it is because I think, even in the Bible, like if you read through the Psalms, especially Psalm 88, there's definitely people that are going through really dark times and there's no quick fix out of it. But at the same time, I do think there's a hope, that things can get better, and that even though we might be feeling bad and the world around us is not good, there's still hope. So I think, I mean, another thing I'm pretty open about is with my faith. I went through a time where I I really questioned my faith in that particular relationship. I was thinking, man, like, am I just in some creepy cult or something? and and I really had to wrestle with that, because unfortunately, like, I couldn't be myself in that relationship, because I couldn't share the most important thing, my faith in Jesus with that person. And so, I ended up finishing that relationship. But I still think that, probably, if you ask me what my favorite song on the album is, I often go back to Sleeping It on Sunday, just because that song is all about me wrestling with, is what I believe in true, or am I just like, should I just give it up? Like, because I think as Christians, followers of Jesus, we shouldn't be lukewarm about it. Like, if you don't believe it, then don't believe it. Like, what's the point of being halfway about it? Like, I think in the Bible, Paul says, if Christ didn't rise from the dead, then we are to be pitied. So, this idea of being kind of culturally Christian doesn't make sense to me. Like, I feel the truth that we have is so good that, it's worth sharing. And so perhaps all those experiences, like, God's work in my life, and I want to be open about it, of course. Like, as Lee said, I want people to join the party, you know, but
Yeah.
I can only share what God's done in my life. Yeah, so
Seems
that's
to
why I'm
me
open.
that the I suppose the significant relationships and your system of belief and all those things that you have in your life are, really the litmus test for the efficacy of all of those things comes at your lowest point.
Mm,
And also, it's a little bit like politics, and I've noticed it a bit, um, you know, in the last 18 months, particularly in Australia, with you know, just the way that people have been handling the pandemic. And what I find really interesting is you get sort of people following politics almost like it's a team sport, and I feel that if you can't actually be, really critical about the things that you believe in and the things that you follow and the things that, if you have a philosophy and you can't actually be critical about that, then you're actually doing a disservice to your own agenda. And so that's also something that I notice with some of your writing, is the fact that, you know you're able to be critically self-reflective, but you're also able to be critical about, what your challenges are with your faith, and actually seeing if it stands up to scrutiny, which obviously for you it does, and that's also a part of the story that you're telling.
yeah, but I think that's why when I talk about my music in general, I want it to start conversations, because, like, I can tell you what I believe, but I would rather that we discuss together. And
Yeah.
I think we we what's the quote? I think it's by Plato. The unexamined life is not worth living. I think it's really important to be
Yeah.
thoughtful about things.
That's exactly, like the idea of being able to say, well, I believe this, so therefore I'm going to break it down to its foundations and see what's there. If there's nothing there, I'll move on. But if it is what I think, then I'm good. But how can you know if you don't?
And yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that's probably the second answer is perhaps when, well, I think God gives you boldness to share, but also when your faith has been tested or what you believe in has been tested, it's a lot easier to be confident about it. Um, oh, I'm realizing that we're almost getting to 8, so I might go 15 minutes over. Is that okay for you, Lee? But I'll try and
Yeah,
get,
that's fine. You
yeah,
didn't
I might
tell
go
them what
15
the
minutes.
second. You didn't tell them what the second song was.
Oh, for me,
I think you were just about to say it.
all I was going to say is that I need to rethink because, well, they're all my babies, Nikita. Like, how can you choose between your babies? But
Sophie's
I
choice. Get it?
no,
Get it?
oh my goodness, no comment to that.
Sorry.
I, I have to admit, I was really happy with Fearfully and Wonderfully Made, more just to see how many people got excited by it and were encouraged by it. So that, I don't know, it changes. It changes depending on my mood. And let's
That's
see.
good. It should change.
Hey, Soph, do you dream of collaborating with any other artists? Well, Lee, do you know that I'm collaborating with your brother on a song?
I heard something about that, but he's been very sneaky. He's been, he's been working with you. He's been working with a couple of people, and I'm finding out after the fact. So it must be because I'm so intimidating or something.
Maybe he's so Lee has a younger brother called Michael Bradshaw as well, and he also worked on the album. Well, he did some of the mastering on Trinkets. Is that right?
He did, yeah, he did,
Yeah.
yeah.
But he's also a really great rapper. I absolutely love his music. So I would be like, "Oh, this is great." A few curse words here and there, but I really
You
like it
curse
because he's
words,
so
my
real.
goodness.
Yeah, but so I said, "Oh, it would be cool to collaborate on a song." Like I actually quite like rap, and I often when I write songs have maybe a chorus, but I don't know what else to do with it. And so yeah, we're working on that. Artists I'd love to collaborate with. Well, someone that we haven't talked about yet is Helena, or her artist name is Leon. So she sang the backing vocals on the album, but she's an amazing artist in her own right. It would be great to collaborate more with her. I do like. There's an artist called Jacob Collier. Do any of you guys know Jacob Collier's work? He's just so amazing and happy and joyful when he creates. So I'll write that in the chat. I'd love to create with him. But really, I just like creating with anyone. Like collaborating. Like I don't like being alone. I'm a mega extrovert. So and like with the album, like I would take songs to Lee and it would go a whole other direction, and it was amazing. So I always get excited when you collaborate with someone. So and definitely Lee again. Let's collaborate again.
Oh,
I always
let's
send
do it.
Lee some weird like phone message of, "Hey, this is a song."
It's great. Yeah.
Oh, Michelle says record in German. Ha ha ha. Yeah. No, well, I don't know. So for those of you that don't know yet, Daniel and I are moving to Germany. What? For three years, God willing. And I actually have gotten in touch. Well, someone got me in touch with Emu Music Deutschland. I don't know if I'm saying that right. So who knows? I may record in German, but I need to learn how to speak German. I did sing in German a little bit in my classical courses and things, but we'll see. And Deborah Robertson, hey Deborah, so nice to see you. She says, "Did you record in Spanish?" No, but I have been working at Guzman Records, Ambato. Shout out to Guzman Records. And I've been working on translating songs into Spanish to sing. I'm hoping that in the time we are waiting to go to Ecuador, I'll be able to do at least 5. But if you stick around to the end, I was thinking of just singing you a little bit of one of the Spanish songs. But it's really fun. I actually really like singing in Spanish. Ooh, do we have any more questions? I like Lee's Brothers music, a bit of rap. Okay, Michael, wherever you are, you've got fans. Um, does anyone have any more questions before? I'm just trying to think. if you have any more questions, this is the time to do it. Please send them in the chat. I was going to ask. Oh, I mean, Lee, what was your experience like though on the album? Do you have any funny memories? Oh, actually, no. What do you do when you're not creating music?
Watch reruns of Friends.
Yes.
Can I
Nice.
say? You know,
I didn't know you liked Friends. That's so
look,
good.
it's just something that you can sit there, you can switch your brain off and look at Jennifer Aniston. I don't know.
She's got similar hair, you know.
She does, yeah. I've always tried to kind of get my my hair to do the Jennifer Aniston thing, but it's too kinky.
No, your hair's amazing. Every time I walk in, I think I make a comment about your hair.
Oh, thanks, Soph.
It's radiant. Let's have a look. Leonie says, "Thanks, Soph. You're right. Honesty, especially to God, breaks off some of the oppression, and God has people from all sorts of backgrounds, professions, from whom He leads us to help us heal." Thank you, Leonie. That's beautiful. I'm just gonna move this to the question one. Lee, before we finish, I wanted to ask you.
Reruns of Seinfeld are better. That's correct. That is true. And I've watched the entire series of Seinfeld twice in the last 12 months. So I'm with you on that.
I don't know. Everyone post your favorite Netflix or series in the comments, because I think everyone needs inspiration right now.
Depends on what you want. It depends on what you want to see.
Sorry?
Depends on what you want to see. Like if you want to watch something that only takes 22 minutes and it's funny, then Seinfeld, Friends.
Miranda, have you seen Miranda, Lee?
No.
Oh, it's so good. British Miranda Hart. Get on that.
All right.
Or good telenovelas. Ed says, hello, Ed. Hola. Mish says, my sister, how far has your music reached? Any unexpected fans?
I think Namibia is pretty far, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I'm a bit sneaky. At the moment, I'm teaching Japanese. Well, sorry, scratch that. I'm teaching English to Japanese students online. And whenever they're like, oh, you're a singer, I'm like, yeah, check out my music.
Slip in a bit of Will Be Loved. Yeah.
Actually, I had a really special moment today. So I shared the music with my church in Ecuador. And I didn't know if they'd connect with it because it's in English. But one of the brothers, hermanos from the church, called me up. And at first I didn't pick up because I was a bit nervous to speak Spanish on the phone. But he called me up and he's like, oh, your music is beautiful. Like you have a gift. And he doesn't understand everything, but obviously can understand a few words. And that was really cool because, yeah, I don't know. He's not like a random fan, but it's pretty amazing who connects with your music. And hopefully now that it's out there, there'll be more people. But yeah, maybe Namibia. Yeah, that's pretty random. Hey. Any more questions? I wanted to ask Lee as well before we finish. What are your current projects and what's coming up for you at the moment? How are you surviving pandemic?
Well, I've got, in the studio, we've got, as usual, we have a number of different projects and because a lot of the musicians that I work with, they have home studio setups and things like that. We're able to sort of keep things moving along, at least to an 80%, I guess, workflow, which has been fortunate. And my studio is only about 2 kilometers from my house, so I'm able to come here. And
I don't think you're gonna get anyone you're not
gonna.
Don't
tell the government.
Government, if you're watching.
Yeah, but no. So, and I've got a number of ongoing composition commissions at the moment as well. I'm about to start a new piece which is going to be premiered in the the National Museum of Rome in January, which will be fun.
Wow.
And I've just finished another couple of pieces, and yeah. So, and I've got a recording project in Berlin in November, which is
This
going to be
November.
I'm not going to be there. I'm going to be here, but they'll be
Maybe
there.
I could go.
Sorry.
Maybe I can go hear it in
Well,
Berlin.
I don't know. Will you be there in November?
Maybe. What date
Well,
is
there we
it?
go. It's so they're recording 18th to the 21st of November in Berlin. Beautiful studio there, and
So the
that's going to
recording. Oh,
that's
okay.
that's going to be an album of some of my string music. So that's what I am doing at the moment.
Can you connect me with your German friends? I want some German friends.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted, if you guys want to go check out Lee's stuff, I've put I'll add it to the comments as well. Where is it? So if you want to check out any of his music, or for example, I don't know if you're a musician or know any singers, songwriters that, have got really great music, but they don't perhaps know what the next step is, it would be great to get in touch with Lee or Bradshaw Music Productions. Oh, Lee, thank you so much for coming. Do you
It was
have any more
fun.
thoughts or comments before we finish up?
Look, just spread this record out. Get everybody to pass it on to one friend at
Yes,
least.
yes.
It's
That is.
it's beautiful. You should be happy. You should be proud, Soph. It's like I said to you the other day. It's a record that belongs in the world. So very proud of it.
Lee. Well, I'll thank you so much, and yeah, it was a great joy to work with you. And the great thing about the internet is that we might have opportunities to collaborate again.
I will see you in Germany, because as
Yes,
soon as
we'll
I
see each
can
other
get
there.
there, I'm going.
Yeah. All right, Lee, I might remove you now.
Oh, sure.
I'll remove you from the talk, and I'll
Okay.
wrap up. But thank you so much. Goodbye, Lee.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all in the chat. Have a good weekend.
Okay, bye. Hello, everyone. Thank you for your patience. I'm sorry that we didn't get to listen to the album. I'm still working it out. Maybe in the future I can do some more live streams like this. But I hope you enjoyed hearing a little bit more about Lee and about the process behind the album. If you have any more questions, feel free to send them to me. And I just want to say thank you to all of you that came and watched, and for all your support. It really means so much to me. I don't think when you're an independent artist, you're doing a lot by yourself, and it can be easy to get discouraged. So just the fact that you guys have been here listening, and yes, if some ways that you can help share the album is, of course, sharing it with a friend. Another thing is I also have a you can sign up to my music newsletter. That is also a way that you can, I know a lot of you are trying to get off social media, and I totally understand that. So if you want to keep up with my music, you can join that. And so as far as music plans for me, the next steps, I'm not quite sure. I'm going to try and record as many songs from the album in Spanish as I can. And when we get to Germany, I'm going to take a bit of time to think about the next steps. I still have songs that I'm writing, and I would love to share more, but I really want to think carefully about that. Carrie, thank you. I'm so glad that you enjoyed hearing about the process. Yeah, Carrie is one of my Gringa friends, my fellow friends in Ecuador. To finish off, I really want, I want to do two things. Si hay alguien aquí que habla español, esta canción es para ti. So if anyone here is still that speaks Spanish, you probably gave up I want to sing. So one of the songs on my album is called Lord of All. It's a really special song because, it really reflects. For example, the first line is, "The Lord has been good to me, and when I fear, I will choose to sing that you are Lord of all, and you will make me strong. Oh Lord, you are my song." And so we've started translating that into Spanish, and to thank you, and also to thank Jesus, to thank God for his faithfulness and bringing this whole project to a conclusion. I'll sing it for you now, if I have any voice. Okay. In Spanish. This is Spanish, by the way. Ha sido bueno para mí, y en mi temor cantaré tu verdad, que tú eres el Señor y me sostendrás. Dios, eres mi canción. Aleluya, 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 oh Señor. Aleluya, 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 oh Señor. Well, thank you so much again for coming. I think my voice is dying a bit. But love you very much. Un abrazo de oso desde Ambato, Ecuador. A hug from a bear from Ambato. And yeah, please share this album with a friend, with anyone that you think will be encouraged by it. I'm thinking especially of you guys in Melbourne. I know it's really tough right now. So sending much love from Ecuador. Bye.